For this year I'm off to sunny Spain. Viva España. For this year I'm off to sunny Spain. Viva España.
I'm not, but there you go. I just thought I'd do that because for once the sun is shining. Welcome to the Midday Show. I'm Russ Kane. We're here every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. All we need now, as if by magic, all the way from New Malden, where he is the king of comedy, he can't walk down the street without people throwing palm fronds and saying, "You are indeed the summit of all that's amazing." Neil Long.
I know, happens to me all the time. Good afternoon.
Is it a burden or can you cope?
Well, I can cope at the moment, batting them off, but
yeah,
all in a day's work.
But do you find it draining? People, please can I have a selfie with you, Neil? Can I have your autograph? Oh, you were so wonderful when I saw you. Would that be? It's difficult. It's a tricky one.
But being a stud muffin like me, it's all quite
obviously
easy.
And I think not just that. A love magnet. It's got to be said. Love magnet.
That too.
Robert Van Buren. Hello, Ross. Hello, Robert. Lovely to see you. Horologist to the stars. And she used to be in Houston. Now she's in Guildford. They're twinned. Hello, everybody, says Julie Voice. I got some pictures from my boy who lives in Texas. And we're all still wearing coats and everything. And he's standing outside his home, which is about the size of Brent Cross, because it's Texas. And if you don't know where Brent Cross, it's the size of Westfield Shopping Centre. And he's standing by, his neighbour's got a Tesla Cybertruck, right? And he's just in shorts, and he's hench. And the sky is the most fabulous blue. And I thought, yeah, Texas. Anyway, it'd be lovely to go and see him. Elizabeth
Texas,
Green, who is
big.
Squightly is. Good morning.
Makes a really rude joke about that, but that was the punchline, but I can't really tell it here.
Probably not. If all is said and done. Fantastic. Barry J. Allen. You talk for a minute. I want to pay the what is this? That's not nice. That's just rude. Rudeness. Don't know what that's about. Loads of you watching all over the world. Elizabeth Green, of course, is in Manhattan, New York, and this is delightful. Absolutely. We've got a good guest coming up. Very interesting guest talking about a very interesting subject. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Looking forward to that. What's on the show today?
Pardon me? What's on the show today? I was about to ask you, because you are a very professional person. You're a planner. You're a thinker. You have spreadsheets going into the next few months of the shows, and I think he doesn't. Paul Claridge, good afternoon, everybody. Loving the new Midday Show, guys. Thank you, Paul Claridge. P.S. Neil, I know how you feel being a babe maggot and meeting a superstar myself. As Paul says, it is stressful.
Well, not for a professional like me, Paul, but if you're feeling it, pop round and I'll give you some tips one day.
Oh, that maybe you could do a whole Wednesday session on dealing with being a love god.
I could.
Or, here's another thought. You hook up with our old pal Paul McKenna, and it's his new book, Neil and Paul, Dealing with Being a Love God.
Could do.
Everyday stress management. Got winner chicken dinner written all over it, I've got to tell you that. Have you bought the wonderful book, Have You Tried This? By someone called Lauren Mishkon with her podcast partner, Nicole Goodman?
No, some connection to you?
Not at all, no. But when you ask your daughter, this is how life is just amazing. Hello to Asa Don Brown in New York. Hi there. It's amazing. I said to her, Lauren, it'd be great. We'll get you on the show. We'll talk about the book. Oh, well, you've got to speak to our agents about that.
The cheek of it.
I said, I'm your dad. You got to the PR company and the agents and the managements and the publishers, they're dealing with all of that. I said, Lauren, if I can't pick up the phone to my daughter and get her on our own show, right? And I got to go through some cockamamie enormous publishing company. She has the same agent as J.K. Rowling, I found out. You believe it? How do you feel, Russell? Well, inadequate, I think, really, Dr. Freud. Do you? Why is that? Well, Anyway, it's a big book, and it's doing really well. What is this? Is Asa Don Brown the head of the New York Brown? No, of course he's not. He's a psychotherapy. Graham, are you on drugs again? No.
I just read his earlier comment. You cheeky sod, Graham.
Bloody rude. There's a thin line, baby. There's a thin line between humor and just being offensive. And you are crossing the line. Oh, look, it's Magritte. Look, a picture.
It's a lovely pair.
Seen anything good on TV? I couldn't find anything to watch. But I would recommend The Outfit. Oh, on Netflix. Whoa. Really good. Really, really claustrophobically scary, set in Chicago in 1956. Thoroughly recommend it.
The Outfit. Where's that playing?
Pardon me? On
Where's
Netflix.
that playing?
It's on Netflix. And if you want, I know I talked about it on Facebook, and I've got to push this again. If you like beautiful, Liz would love it. I'm not sure you'd like it so much, but Liz Saul, your compadre, would love it. I thought it was the best film of 2023. It's called The Taste of Things. The Taste of Things with Juliette Binoche. French film, subtitles, obviously, because I don't speak French, apart from Citroën and Renault. That's it. Beautiful, beautiful. It's on very limited release. I really do recommend it. It's lovely. The Taste of Things. It's most don't go if you're feeling hungry. So if Liz says, Neil, let's go, for God's sake, eat first. You won't make it past the first 20 minutes.
Heads up.
No, it's important. Paul Carriage says, well, this is an interesting point about success, which Neil is used to, but I struggle. Surely, Russ, as her father, you are Lauren's ultimate agent. No. Those days are past. It is amazing. But I guess if you want something very scientific and you go to your daughter, you'd have to probably go through the proper channels now.
No, I could just pick her up on the foot and get her on here, but don't worry.
Oh. So basically you're saying that you could get your daughter on the show to discuss clever things that she does at work, but I couldn't get mine. No, it's fine. It's fine. I'm not upset. It's fine. It's okay. Really. No,
yeah, I don't want to be rude, but
no, it's fine. It's fine. It doesn't go through my heart like a spear. It's fine. It's not a problem. It's not a problem.
So tell us about our guest. What's going on?
Well, that's an excellent question. Our guest is, I've got to look up I'll look up the banner. Our guest is, I'll show you who this is coming up. Phoenix Head Group of Customer Service. Vulnerability. Certain sections of society are very, very vulnerable and getting more vulnerable. And she's coming on, I think she's coming on at 12:30, if my memory serves, which is doubtful these days, but you never know. Yeah, so she's coming on. Rifat Tufail. Have I pronounced that right? Is that close? Rifat Tufail.
Customer vulnerability. That's interesting. What does that mean?
Well, you're going to find out, Mr.
Okay.
I need to know everything immediately.
I'm sorry. I'm just curious.
Guess who else we're going to probably be having on? Someone you do know well. Not today, but someone who reached out to me out of the blue and wants to come on.
Who's
a
that?
Certain doctor.
Neil Fox.
Neil Fox will be coming onto the show. He's also going to be hopefully doing Walk the Talk, the Hero's Journey. But Neil Fox wants to come on the show and he wants to talk. I've left it for a long time, deliberately, because what happened to Neil was diabolical, awful case of cancel culture. I'm not going to spoil it, but if you know what happened to Neil, it was shocking.
Yeah, it was.
And we love Neil. He's a very, very nice guy. And he's a friend to both Neil Long and myself, because otherwise it sounds like he's a friend for himself. And he's a nice guy. And I was out of the blue. I forgot to tell you. Out of the blue, he said, I'd love to come on and talk. And, because what happened to him does not, as my late mum used to say, go to your boots. Shocking. He was accused of something that didn't happen. He was completely exonerated. £500,000 later in legal fees. Yeah, that's the world we live in. No proof, no nothing. You could just say anything, and then you got to fight it. It's shocking. I have a question for you, Neil, and I'm switching mood. It's a genuine question. I would like your input, please, and everybody else. This weekend, Facebook user, hello everyone. Can't see who it is because you're obviously, I think you're probably watching on the espresso bar. If you do watch on the espresso bar, there's a little sort of thing you can press and it'll say who it is. It'd be great to see him on the show. It would be great to see him on the show. It'd be lovely to see Neil on the show. This weekend, Tower Bridge, one of our most famous landmarks in the United Kingdom, was completely shut, taken over by pro-Palestinian supporters, pro-Palestinian fanboys and girls. No arrests, no nothing. How did we get there? How did we get to this? Nothing. Stray into a bus lane for 10 feet by mistake because you're avoiding a minicab or a moped idiot delivering food. Is it food? And the world's on you, straight into a bus lane, park somewhere for a minute while you're taking a phone call or something. No, world falls on your head, right? Take over London, the Tower Bridge, shut it down, illegal banners, police do nothing. How does that work? Why have we got two-tier policing? Why? Neil?
Pass.
That's it? That's it? You don't know?
I don't know.
Do you care?
Yes, I do care. When I care that there's people who are living in fear now, when it's unnecessary. I care that because of people's perceptions of these situations, there's people getting dragged in who don't deserve to be. And I care when completely ordinary people, like the 25-year-old Israeli, or I might add, Palestinian, who has nothing to do with it. It's all started way before they were born, probably way before their grandparents were born, are dragged into something which they've really got nothing to do with when they're, being invaded, being harmed, when they've got absolutely nothing to do with what started it in the first place. So yeah, I do care about that.
It's appalling. To just
on the humanist level, if you like, on the human level, yes, I do care about it.
I think the whole thing.
And that's said without taking sides. I'm talking about.
No, I get that. No, it's a completely neutral
people.
statement. It's a neutral statement. When did it become acceptable for a mob to just take over roads, to take over Tower Bridge and just close it? No pre-warning, and the police did nothing. Do you trust the police anymore? Do you trust the police anymore?
At times.
I don't. My faith in them is gone. My faith.
You're not the only one to say that.
I know, but it's shocking. You see, what? Think about it for a minute, right? Think about it for a minute. If you don't have law and order, if you don't have a police force which applies the law to everybody, that's what we morally sign up to. Doesn't matter who you are, you break the law, you have to face the consequences. That's how it is. That's how it's always been. But not if you've got a get out of jail free card. So I don't understand. Somebody unfurls the Union Jack and they're dragged off. Tommy Robinson, who was doing nothing. I'm not a Tommy Robinson fan. Please don't go there. All right. He's pepper sprayed and dragged off by 6-8 policemen. There's one bloke. He's on his own, right? This mob can take over Tower Bridge. Nothing. So you got two-tier policing. It looks like. But what the fear is, for me, is that nature, I've said this for years now, nature abhors a vacuum. And if it's seen that the police are doing nothing, how long before a militia gets formed? How long before mob rule comes back? How long before people just say, I've had enough of this? And then it gets very, very ugly. Very, very ugly. How can you possibly project onto Big Ben last week awful slogans, no consequences? Imagine if another group had been singled out. Imagine that, and they project it. How quickly would have that been shut down? How quickly would the media have been screaming about it?
So are you saying, and I'm asking you just personally as a friend, that if it wasn't anti-Semitic, there would be more action taken against it, but for some reason, because it's against Jewish people, it's ignored? Is that what you're saying?
I think that's it in a nutshell. Well, there's several things at play. One is they're terrified of these people. They're terrified of them. They've been bullied. And
who is terrified of who?
I think the MPs and the police are terrified of the Islamic movement. That's what I believe. That's what I truly. I mean, the scenes in the House of Commons last week were disgraceful. Either we live in a democracy or we don't. And if you don't live in a democracy, you've got to take steps to defend yourself. Who the hell wants to go back to that? Forming militias. Is that what you want? Vigilante groups. Is that what you want? This is crazy because that's what that's what's being faced. It's horrible. Absolutely horrible. What does Paul? Graham Pack says this. If there were noisy demonstrations outside the houses of these protest organisers, they'd be moved on in double quiet. In other words, if you knew they lived at 33 of the High Street, I don't know, somewhere in the middle or whatever, they'd be moved on. Of course they would. Yeah. I trust the frontline police officers who come running when our shop is robbed. Okay. I don't trust the police as an organisation. This is Paul Claridge. The officers on the streets are only following orders imposed by senior officials who are too afraid to upset the apple cart. Not an apple cart. Why don't you just call it what it is? And offend certain groups. Yeah, there's one group of people that are afraid of offending. I'm not afraid of certain groups. One group only. It's really, I don't know how we got here. And then Graham Pack makes a very, very, very valid point. The police did nothing for years with the grooming gangs in Rochdale and other towns. We're talking about hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of girls. Hundreds of girls. Nothing. Nothing. Why?
I don't know.
Because they want the vote. It's as simple as that.
So you're basically saying that policing is politicised and or media driven, essentially.
Policing has been completely politicized. You got Sadiq Khan at the top. I won't even start to go down that rabbit hole. And then you've got, they're not at the top. They're not coppers. They're not coppers. They're political animals, which is what they are. I don't think the average Bobby on the beat, if there is such a thing, or the bloke sitting in his patrol car is politicized at all. I think they joined the police to make a difference. I'm convinced of it. But their hands are tied by their political masters, which is shocking. And if you think it's bad now, wait until after the election. Holy God. Holy God. Because my bet is, and this is just my bet, Starmer will sweep it. I mean, guaranteed. You can bet the house on that. Whether you like it or not, I think that's what's going to happen. And I think within 3.5 minutes, they'll dump him and get somebody very radical in. And then good luck. Good luck with that. Yeah. I think it's a really, really dangerous time we're living in. I think it's horrible. And
it's a time of more extremes, and it's a time of things happening a lot faster. I maintain, though, it makes it even more important for us to talk about, when we can, about maintaining our personal well-being and how we may share that with other people, even in a small way like this, even in a small forum like this. And that's why I make very neutral statements. You'll notice that I'm very
you are
even though I have many Jewish friends, which I love, yourself included, sir, I will not make comments that take sides, so to speak.
I get that, but
I
understand this.
always think on the very human level. When Russia invaded Ukraine, and there were pictures of the 21-year-old Ukrainian mum who was terrified because there were bombs dropping in her town, and she's just there nursing her baby. What the hell does that have to do with her?
Nothing.
It was all started way before she was born.
Yeah.
That'd be like blaming me for the Luddites or whatever.
Well, we do.
Or
never forget that.
Or something, I don't know.
I blame you for the reformation of the monasteries and their subsequent dissolution.
Yeah.
If you look at the history book.
But that's a bit like that. You could bring religion and politics and history into it and quite legitimately come up with something that someone of my ilk did way back. But that's what
they want. They want reparations.
But
people want reparations. We want reparations for I don't know, for slavery. What's that got to do with Neil Long sitting in New Malden? It's like nothing. It was like forever ago. It was ghastly. It was horrible.
It was terrible. But
it was what it was.
These
are awful.
And I'd like to think we're a more evolved species by now. And sometimes I think we are, and sometimes I think we're not.
No, we're not. Do you know there's more slaves now in the world than ever? Do you know that? There are more people in actual slavery now in the 21st century than ever before in the history of the world. Ever. Fact. That is just appalling. I don't think we've evolved as a species whatsoever. I think we're a plague. I do. I think it's shocking.
But that's not the most useful point of view for people.
It's not useful at all. It's just how I feel.
But there are a group of people, a set of people who are evolving, looking at the bigger picture and all that sort of stuff. And they need to be applauded. There's never a crowd on the leading edge, is there?
Oh, I like that. No, because they're pioneers. And it's true. And that's why I wanted to widen the whole remit of the Midday show so we could talk about other things other than just mental health and well-being, which is very important. I get that. But there are other issues which are equally, globally, more pressing. And this is one of them. It's and understand this. If they wiped out every Jewish person, if these people occupying Tower Bridge and projecting their garbage on the side of Big Ben, with no legal ramifications whatsoever, if they wiped out every Jewish person, do you think it stops there? Because they come for you next. That's how it works. We're just convenient. Absolutely appalling. But people sitting there thinking, well, it's nothing to do with me. Oh, trust me, it will be something to do with you. It really will. Let's see what the great brain says. Would you like to read this out, Neil? This is from Dr. Aza.
Well, I believe in accepting all people. The crime being committed at large is mind-boggling. We're having the same issue with criminal behaviour and attitudes in Canada and the States. The issue starts with our leadership and their supporters. We can change the narrative, but it's going to take the willingness of the people to voice their disgruntlement with the current agenda. Damn straight it is. Aza, you're absolutely right. I saw a wonderful thing. One of the people I can't stand is Justin Trudeau, sorry, not his dad. Or was it Fidel? Justin Trudeau, who heads up Canada. Canada's a cluster mess. And a beautiful country. You've spent time in Canada. I spent Loved it.
Time in Canada. Yeah, beautiful, fantastic place being ruined by Trudeau and his stupid ideology crap. And it was a wonderful thing. So the opposition guy got up in Parliament. I watched this over the weekend, I think. And he says, may I welcome back our Prime Minister? Welcome back. Welcome back from your $80,000 free holiday, one of several that you've had this year. I am delighted that you had a free $80,000 holiday while the rest of us was working, but that's not the point. And I thought it was excellent that you took private jets everywhere on your free $80,000 holiday. You used up, and then he quoted all the emissions that Trudeau's use of private jets had cost. And then it cuts to Trudeau banging on about, oh, climate change does this and climate change does that. And, the hypocrisy of these people is jaw-dropping. So when Asa said, we've got to change the narrative, he ain't kidding. You just got to look at these people and go, you're just massive hypocrites. It's shocking. Does it start with, but Neil, as you say, I guess it starts with the individual. It starts with the individual, but we don't have the individual right now. We've got mob rule. And mob rule only goes one way, and it ain't good. It ain't good. Because if there's a pushback, the pushback will be brutal. That's for sure. I don't like it. I don't like it. We just want to live life. We just want to get on, live our life, potter around the garden if you got one, take dogs for a walk, do a bit of work. That's what you want. Have a cup of coffee. Don't want to be living in fear. Don't want to be living because we're intimidated. And it never stops. They go for one group. When they're finished with that, they go for another group. It's endless. Endless. It's got to be stopped. Got to be stopped. And it's a fad as well. I mean, a lot of the people are incredibly stupid and have no idea what they're doing. And what is terrifying, of course, when you see what's going on in Harvard, and these meant to be the ultimate brains of the United States, you think you are as thick as mince. And that's the future. Not good. Right, here we go. Would you care? Would you be so kind, Neil Long, to read this out?
News today on mental health of 18 to 22-year-olds reading a book on brain food and how junk has an effect on apathy and depression.
Yeah.
I believe our next generation is in trouble. Not enough exercise, good food and community support will drain well-being of those younger than us. Yes, community and peer support is important for all of us, and eating the right foods can be transformative. Yes, absolutely.
That's Kimmy Lashmar. I agree. Kimmy, I never understood. I've made this point before, and no one's ever been able that fast food, I'm not mentioning any of the names of the companies, you all know who they are. Why is it kids love them? Instantly. I was thinking of my kids don't touch it now, but any of them. But when they were very little, they couldn't get enough of it. Junk. They don't eat junk food. They eat very healthy. And I'm convinced there's something in it. Is it the salt? I don't know what it is, but whatever it is, it's addictive. It feels it's addictive. Does that make sense, Neil? Yeah?
Yes. And I do believe our guest is in the green room.
Our guest is in the digital green room, ladies and gentlemen. And she is here to tell us wondrous stuff. Hello, Rifat. How are you?
I'm great. Can you hear me?
Loud and clear.
We can hear you. We can see you. Everything is technically brilliant.
What a lovely, unusual name. I've never met anyone called Rifat before. You're my first Rifat I've ever met.
Good. Hopefully the best Rifat you'll ever meet.
Well, you're setting the bar pretty high. We've only been going 15 seconds and already.
Yep, you've set a high benchmark already. Welcome to the show.
Absolutely. Rifat, tell us all about why you're here.
So I'm here. I work for Phoenix Group and I'm the head of customer vulnerability.
And explain what Phoenix Group is to everyone who doesn't know, which would be me.
So we have 12 million customers, and our customers have a range of products from pensions to protection to long-term savings. So we are a family of brands. So some of the names you'll have heard of: Standard Life, Sun Life, Reassure, and Phoenix Life.
Yeah, I think I've been with all of you at some point. One point or another. All right. Okay. And you got 12 million customers. Wow. Well done, you.
Yeah, we have 12 million customers. So we take that responsibility really seriously. And what we're very conscious of through our research is that vulnerability is increasing across the UK. Some of that is heightened by cost of living, which I'm sure is a topic, that a lot of people are talking about at the moment. But we're living longer. In the UK, we're an aging society. So people are living longer. Yep. If you're born today, you've got more chance of living to 100 than ever before. So that's creating obviously its own set of challenges. So yes, that's why I'm here, because what we recognize is that people are living longer. We want them to have longer, better lives. And at the moment, things are getting in the way and people are worried about money. So what our research has shown us is that 1 in 4 of UK adults are losing sleep because they're worried about money.
I bet.
Yeah, and 23% are actually saying that worrying about money is affecting their mental health.
Yep.
And we know that physical, financial, mental health, all these things are interlinked.
Let me ask you a question, slightly out of your remit, but that's the nature of the show. This whole thing about, you're going to live longer, I think it's a terrible idea. I think it's terrible. I think, we were meant to kind of drop at my age, and now, 80 is considered kind of young. I do a lot of funerals as a celebrant, and he was only 8. Wow, shame. No, he was 80. It meant that used to be good. And now it's considered, it's like middle age. Well, it's middle age, you're going to live to be 160, for Christ's sake. So living well and being older is one thing, but just getting older and having all the same worries is a horrible thing.
A company, I can't remember who it was. It was someone like Bupa. It might even have been them. It might not. They had a lovely slogan like, it's not about adding years to your life. It's about adding life to your years. And I think as long as there's a quality of life, I wouldn't say it matters if you're 300. It's about quality.
If you have the quality.
It's about quality of life, isn't it? And quality of life that includes well-being, includes financial abundance. And in fact, you're absolutely right. There is a link. So put bluntly, worrying about money doesn't create any more of it. And I know that's a bit of a blunt statement, but it doesn't. So everything must have an opposite. So let's find out what you're doing to counter that. Because we talk a lot about mental well-being and perhaps we talk a lot on this show about staying in a state of well-being as much as possible, regardless of circumstance, as much as is possible. Because if you can do that, then you can weather pretty much any storm.
Yeah. And it's about mindset.
We're
talking about mindset.
Over to you.
And what we saw through our research was that when you're worried about money, it affects your mindset. And it can create a scarcity mindset. Now, this is sort of a behavioral science, kind of concept, which is when you feel like you don't have enough money, that money is scarce, you're more likely in that mindset to make decisions that are impulsive or suffer from something like cognitive overload, which is another sort of behavioral psychology, kind of concept.
Is that a bit like burnout?
It's a bit like it's overload. So it's overwhelmed. It can feel overwhelming if somebody's a lot of information. And
you're absolutely right. It is impossible to make good decisions when in a state of stress, or the more popular phrase, fight or flight.
Fight or flight or freeze is the other one.
Yeah,
fight, flight or freeze. So sometimes people feel, frozen. So we're training our customer service colleagues to recognize these different mindsets. So we're training them in some of the behavioral science, the behavioral psychology that goes along with feeling vulnerable. And we've also created a virtual reality experience where you put the headset on and you're actually in the shoes of somebody who's sharing a vulnerable customer situation. So that really helps our colleagues connect and create that empathy, when somebody contacts us. And we talk about aging society, and what comes with that is more of us have accessibility challenges, things like hearing, things like, dexterity, visual impairment. So we use special glasses and gloves to recreate the physical impairments, so that our colleagues can wear the gloves and the glasses and then try to, navigate a website or use a phone, use a telephone.
How brilliant is that?
That's a good idea.
Bravo, you. Because I was going to say, nobody wants face-to-face stuff. I'm not saying Phoenix Group. You know what it's like. You try and find a branch of a bank. Good luck with that, right? Like finding rocking horse poo. You can't. They're all shut. So They don't want face-to-face interactions. Everything, oh, do it online, do it online. Well, not everybody. And to go back to what you're saying, an aging population, not everyone is that tech savvy. Neither should they have to be. So I'm very delighted. I've never heard any other company say, right, employees, staff, put these gloves on, put these glasses. Now you try to do what we're asking the customers to do. You can't do it.
No, and that's why it's important.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's why we've really invested in our training here so that we can bring this to life for colleagues, and they might also be vulnerable themselves. So the other side of the coin is how we're supporting our colleagues and how companies support their staff. It could also be challenging, facing these challenges.
So let me ask you a bigger question here, all right? Because my background is corporate. I wrote for all the blue chip companies you can imagine in their speeches and training programs. That was what I did for many, many years. Who is making your company clearly more human? Is there somebody at the top that is saying, I don't mean a person, but a group of people saying, no, our customers are actually people. We should be treating them as people, not as ciphers or just as numbers on a spreadsheet. Where is that ethos coming from?
So this is an inherent part of our culture. So we have a culture of being customer obsessed. We want to put the customer at the heart of everything.
I love that.
Why? Because we want people to have a life of possibilities. You want that, I want that.
Yeah.
But we recognize that, sometimes your circumstances are going to make that journey a little bit bumpy. And we want to be
you're basically using a great ethos and technology, advanced technology, to help people with the positive mindset rather than the mindset of scarcity. Because you're right, it's one or the other. It's the same stick, but there's two ends of it. And you're either at the scarcity. I made this. You can either live in scarcity or do a bun dance. It's one or the other.
You can have that. By the way, you can have that. You can have that. Have that on your next annual report. There you go. That can be on the front.
Well, but it's a nice way of looking at it, isn't it? If it's one way or the other, we want to be able to pivot to the other one, don't we? And say, look, it's safe to pivot to the other one,
So let me ask you a kind of leading question. Because you're customer focused and you want to treat them as human beings, and how rare is that? What do you find that as a corporation? There's a benefit? Have you got a good loyalty base? Are you got returning customers? So what are the benefits? I understand why you want to do it as a humanitarian, but let's cut to the chase. In terms of corporate, bottom line, the benefits to you, you're seeing them?
So, just relating to what you said there, I always say to be human is to be vulnerable, because we're all going to be vulnerable at some point in our lives.
Right.
That's a level playing field in that respect. What's really important to us, as I mentioned earlier, is that we want everybody to have a life of possibilities.
Yeah.
But we recognize things are going to get in the way, and we want to be there for our customers. And we call that those moments that matter. That's a moment of truth. When you reach out to an organization and you say, I need help. And that's what we're doing, is we're making sure that we've got options for customers, we've got solutions for customers. Naturally, we would hope that means that they've had a good experience and that they'll talk about that experience with their friends and family.
And people, I think there's also another belief, which is quite strong, is that we have to have everything worked out ourselves. We have to do it all ourselves. And to ask for help of any kind is somehow a weakness, that we've somehow failed. And that's a big block for some people.
Yeah, absolutely. What we've seen when we talk to customers is, they're proud, we're proud. They don't want to bother anybody. They're also
don't want to be a burden.
Don't want to be a burden.
Oh, there we go.
But they're also worried. What if I tell this company something about my situation? There's an element of kind of trust there that has to be, I guess, built and engendered so that people feel, well, this is a safe space for me to share.
It's so interesting. I think what you're doing is terrific.
Thank you.
Absolutely terrific. When did you bring in the initiative? When did it commence?
So we've been working on our sort of program, if you like, for vulnerable customers for 3 years. That's a formal program. But before that, I've been in the role 2 years prior to that. So we've supported customers through the pandemic. We're helping our customers through cost of living, and not just our customers, as I mentioned, helping our own colleagues through that is really important.
Yeah, it really is. So you're really, you're walking the talk, so to speak. It's been an absolute pleasure, Rifat. I know how busy you are. Bless you for what you're doing. I wish more people will, and more corporations and institutions were like you. World would be a happier place. Okay, thank you so much for joining us on the Midday Show. All right, bye-bye.
Lovely to meet you.
Bye-bye. Charming person. Great idea what they're doing. What's the saying, Longy? Walk a mile in someone else's shoes. Right? Walk a mile in someone else's shoes. It's so easy when you are younger and have no hearing, your sight's fabulous and you feel great all the time, right? It's so easy to be dismissive of somebody who is hearing isn't great, sight isn't great, doesn't have the mobility. You don't know until you've experienced it. You've no idea what it's like. To you, to be blunt, it's a pain in the ass. Some old farts on the phone complaining about X, Y, and Z. Well, one day, matey, you will be that old fart on the phone. That'll be you. There's no getting out of it. That's how it is. So have empathy. You talk a lot about it, Neil, much more than I do, about empathy. That we're not an empathetic society anymore, and we need to be. We just need to be far more empathetic. Even down to, I've said this before, but I do believe I'm in the supermarket and there's a little old dear, and I do mean a little old dear, and she's chatting to the cashier, and your initial reaction is, oh, for Christ's sake, got to get out, I got to do X, Y, and Z. And then there's a little part of you, maybe for this elderly person, this is the only human interaction they're going to have all week, chatting to the cashier. That could be it. Think about that. Yeah. Think about that. And that's our only human connection. I don't like
being alone for too long, I must admit. I do. I like
what happens if you are? What happens if you are, though?
If I am, and I feel alone in situations with no one to bounce it off and with no kind of, if my mind's in a circular loop and I have no resolution, then I can be quite self-destructive, shall we say.
Totally. Why do we do that? Why do we have that button printed in red saying, press me? It's the size of a freaking dustbin then. Why? God, if I could get rid of that, and you're the same. If we could get rid of that bloody button, your wonderful thing of get that little voice, put it on the end of your thumb, give it Joe Pasquale's voice, and you just go, shut up. Yeah, I get that. It's wonderful. But we don't. We can't always manage it. You know what I mean? We can't.
I did yesterday talk a friend, I'm not going to mention any names, back into a state of well-being. And it was done relatively quickly using a bit of clever NLP. I was doing NLP quite a lot yesterday. It was really interesting because I went to an MCing course, the MC at a comedy night, and they were talking about NLP in that and how an MC whose job it is to warm up the room, make everyone feel welcome and create a receptive, fertile, fun ground for the comedians and to do the right thing before they bring the right whatever comedian on and angle what they're doing towards bringing the next one on in the right way. There's a real science to it. There's a real science and art to it. Yeah. And they'd written a whole opening set, which was optimized with NLP to put the audience in a conducive mindset, which I thought was brilliant. And I talked a friend, no names, back into a state of well-being. Something had happened to this person and it had discombobulated them. But I said to this person, can you remember, who do you feel safe with? And she said who she felt safe with. I said, well, imagine yourself with that person now. She went, yeah. And I said, okay, that's what the feeling of safety feels like. Right.
Yeah.
And because the unpleasant incident wasn't happening now, that was then in the past, she could tune into a feeling of safety now, regardless of the circumstance in the recent past. So, and it was done, if I may say so, pretty well by me, and it was quick as well. It was quick and it worked.
And was it lasting? Was that feeling, was that reaction lasting?
I'll let you know when I speak to this person later.
Okay.
But it was certainly, if it's all about managing our internal state, and I know that's not easy, and I can't do it all the time, but I'm learning how to talk people back into well-being, and people are learning how to do it for me. Now that...
you see, I'm brilliant. Talking to other people, I can give the most wonderful advice. To myself, useless. Absolutely 100% useless.
But it can work both ways. If you still got that mindset of I have to do it all myself and work it out all by myself, you, not you personally, anyone will be blocking that because the barrier's up. But like our guest said, if you feel you have the safe space to be truly vulnerable, truly share how you feel, and be willing within that vulnerability to be given a safe space, a safe tank big enough to move, then you can get some space around it, a movement around it. Right?
How many of you watching and listening around the world have thought you could trust somebody, done that, and it's bitten you on the arse big time? How many of you?
Which is why, understandably, people find it hard to trust, that people have trust issues. But again, that doesn't mean that you can't tune into the feeling of safety if you imagine what you feel like when you're safe with someone that you know you're safe with.
I get that totally. It's a slightly side adjunct to what you're saying. The idea, and it's terrific, of being able to conjure up, magic up, call it what you will, but call at will the feeling of, no, I can project myself into a safe situation in my head, is terrific. The idea of whether you can trust people is a very different matter.
Yeah, very, very much so. But I would take issue with the word conjure. It's not conjure. It's not magic. It's just how our neurology works, and it's just about understanding how our own minds.
It feels like magic. That's the point. It feels like magic. What have we got here? Facebook.
But
because it comes out of nowhere, because you go, oh, that's clever. It's magic, isn't it? I'll come back to that. It's interesting that the pockets of society around the world with lots of over 100-year-old people are in great health are because of good food, family, exercise, what I call old-fashioned living. Absolutely, whoever you are, I'm agreeing. We're living, like you said, in dangerous times, spiraling into a fast-paced, peer-pressured society. Oh, we are way past that point. We are. I think we're in big trouble, personally. I'm not being pessimistic. I'm looking around and thinking something's got to give here. There's got to be there's going to be a huge reaction to this. This cannot blunder on as it's going on. Weak leadership, gutless politicians, gutless people at the head of the police force, not the police themselves. I couldn't do their job. I think they're bloody brave. I couldn't do it in a million years. And I've known lots of policemen. They've been personal good mates of mine. They're damn brave. I couldn't do what they do. But they're ordered around by politicians, not themselves. That's why I said it's magic. I'm not. I don't want you to think I'm deriding it, Neil.
I don't think you're deriding it. I think if you use the word, if you use the word magic, it can seem a bit weird or a bit airy fairy, and it's not. It's science. It's science. I'm sure Asa Don Brown will back me up on this. What we're talking is science here. It's not magic.
We are a social species, and we are taught to be early on. Ultimately, it's about the survival of the species. Yep. Yet it's important that we learn to be alone and capable of self-acceptance and self-soothing. Not easy.
However,
not easy
but let's extrapolate that, because if we were all able to soothe ourselves and all able to soothe the people around us, we would all be, soothed, and we'd all be in the parasympathetic nervous system where you do make the good decisions from. Now extrapolate that. Imagine a whole society of people making good decisions for themselves and the people around them. Imagine that. And that possibility exists just as much as the negative ones that you talk about. They both do. It's the end of which stick do you want to grab?
I'd like to grab the nice
scarcity or abundance.
I'd like to
or fear.
I would like to grab the nice end, not the shitty end of the stick.
Okay.
I get that. But if you've got a society where there are people who are quite clearly raving mad, fanatical lunatics, I think you've got a bit of a problem on your hands there. You can't
I
have
agree.
logical conversation. You can't have a
I
logical
agree.
conversation with them.
But jumping in with the
Impossible.
drowning man to save yourself really doesn't work. And that's what grabbing the shitty end of the stick along with everybody else does.
No, I understand that. But, you know, if somebody's coming at you with a stick or a fist and everything else and screaming because they're raving lunatics, you know, being the logical, sophisticated person ain't going to get you out of that situation at that time.
No.
That's what I don't like. I don't like being dragged down to that level. And it's all been orchestrated. All of this stuff. It's not an accident. It's not an accident. You know it as well as I do. It's all been orchestrated. It's a 20, 30-year plan with enormous powers at play. Absolutely. All of it. All of it. Orchestrated. Why? Who the hell knows? They hate the West. Don't like capitalism. Don't like order. All of those things. But it's not an accident. These things don't happen by accident. Right. This is for you, Neil, if you'd like to read it out.
Neil, I may tap you up for some advice soon. I've been counselling a couple of close friends recently. The same for him for years. I've never had any training, just told them a good listener and good advice, and that can make you feel better about themselves. Considering whether to get some training in NLP or other therapies.
Ooh, nice one.
Well, NLP is a pretty good one, Paul.
Yeah. You can see, I'm going to say this, and I know you're in the room, Neil, so don't blush. But Neil's been very honest that he calls it his big dip a few years ago, and done tons of work on himself, which is why I'm thrilled he's here twice a week. So it works. It works. Happiness is important.
Perfect, and I'm still evolving, and I haven't got it perfect, but I'm in a much better place than I was.
Yeah.
A much better place than I was.
Yeah. This is good. Well, it's good. The proof is in the pudding. Happiness is important, says Facebook user. I'm suspecting watching on the Espresso Bar Facebook group, which you can join. Please just join and I'll admit you anytime. Hope is necessary. Oh, you see, once we lose hope, we're doomed. That's it. And maybe we all need to slow down and be more kind. Well
I would go further. Leave that up for a minute.
Nice?
I would say, leave that up for a minute, would you? That comment?
Yeah, sure.
Thank you. I would say happiness is, believe it or not, our default state. We're not supposed to be unhappy. Hope is necessary. When you know deep down that everything's going to be all right, hope isn't necessary. Hope is if you're hoping for something. If you knew deep down, if you were certain that everything was going to be fine and that was your belief, that's what you would experience. But yes, we all do need to slow down to be able to tune into what we're thinking and feeling. And then maybe, because if I can anchor this feeling of safety into someone, who says you can't do that with hope or with belief or with this or with that? This is the thing, Paul, with NLP. Every behavior has got a structure. That person that's good at making £1 million, there's a how to that. That person that remains Zen-like in any situation, there is a how to that. And it's a teachable how. And that's the point. That's the point. It's not about controlling other people, one group trying to control another, groups being more dominant or more powerful than another. That's all very old. That's all very old paradigm stuff. This is new.
But there are huge swathes of society, I'm watching my words very carefully, that adhere to beliefs that are so archaic that have no place in a 21st century thinking, that is barbaric. And so that pushes the paradigm to one side. Let's see what Asa is saying. I'm so glad Asa's with us on the Midday Show. A part of my training and background has been in hostage negotiation and profiling. Wowza. Believe me, you have to be at peace within your own being when facing a weapon. Neil, you have many sound perspectives.
I really appreciate that, and that's high
fantastic.
praise coming from a very professional man like yourself, Dr. Rachel. I really
Absolutely.
appreciate that. Thank you. As I say, I haven't got it perfect. I can talk a good game, but in theory, it's absolutely right. Can you imagine someone in fight or flight if they were facing a gun? Or if they were
No,
trying to
God
down a
knows what.
situation.
You always think, yeah, I know what I'd do. I haven't the faintest idea what I'd do. I don't know, find the nearest dry cleaners would probably be my first default position. Somebody shoved a gun.
Well, second after escape, one would hope.
I don't know, maybe just freeze. I mean, I hope to God I never have to find out.
Well, if that did,
that would not be good.
You unless you had levels of self-mastery or training, you were going to fight, flight, or freeze.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, unless you're Bruce Lee or somebody like that, it ain't gonna happen. Totally.
Speaking of Bruce's, I saw a picture of Bruce Willis as he is now. Really, really sad.
Oh,
really sad. I thought, I know that face. I've seen that before. That face. The dementia face is horrible. Not there. I've seen it.
Awful. It's a cruel, brutal disease. You know, went through it with my mum for 16 years. It's ghastly. Absolutely ghastly. Horrible. Dementia. Awful. Sucks the life out of you in every single way. It's brutal. And it's still not talked about enough. People are still embarrassed about it. And you shouldn't be. The only way you can make progress is by talking about stuff, you know? Can't keep hiding it away in a shadow. It's just not going to work like that. Awful. I thought what was sad, excuse me, was that Bruce Willis obviously needed money, presumably for medical stuff. So he appeared in a load of films. They're all on Netflix and Amazon. Where he just drops in the film and drops out of the film. And they are universally terrible. And you can see he's just kind of not there. Just not there. I understand.
Even in the films, you can see it there.
Yeah, you can see it's not there. He's giving the lines, the delivery of the lines is like robotic. It's shocking. And you only wish someone could have said, Bruce, please don't, your legacy's terrific from Moonlighting onwards, which you're too young to remember. But don't let this be how people remember you, these really bloody awful films that are just terrible. And no point of you even being in the scenes. I mean, it's just shoehorned in. It's horrid. Where did you see the picture? By the way, it's somewhere on the internet. Horrible. I wish people would.
Well, I did read the other day. I did some more research into it. There's possibly a new breakthrough in Alzheimer's.
The trouble with that is,
I think something I came to appreciate. It's not a mental illness. It looks like a mental illness. It looks very much like a mental illness, but it's a physical illness which affects the physical brain. And because the brain deals with the mental as well, it appears to manifest as a mental illness. It's not. It's nothing physical. To do with. It's physical. It's physical.
I tell you what I liken it to, and I'm not a doctor, as you've probably gathered over the years. In 2001, A Space Odyssey, how the computer has to be switched off. So bit by bit, David Bowman starts to take the chips out, as it were. So this computer, which was brilliant, slowly reduces until all it can do is sing Daisy, Daisy, give me your answer, do. And I always thought, although it wasn't meant to be at the time, but to me, that is what dementia and Alzheimer's like. Bit by bit. Horrible. Let's see if we can do this. This is from
Before we go, Paul.
Well,
Paul. Here we go.
Yeah.
A while ago, I was speaking to a guy in our shop. He was explaining changing his career and becoming a plumber. What did you do before? I asked him. I was an armed officer in the Met. And I shot. Goodness, did a terrorist in the attacks at Borough. He had a breakdown after that and had to leave the force. Yeah, because we forget them. our brave police officers are human too.
Of course.
PTSD is still very real and very large. Yeah, they used to call
Damn
it
right.
shell shock. Now they call it PTSD.
Yeah.
And trauma is very real, and it stores in the body until released. Paul, very quickly before we go, I've got quite a few good resources on NLP. So if you'd like to learn more, I can certainly point you in the right direction. And if you hit me up on Facebook or something like that, I can send you these free resources. You can have a look at it.
Bloomin' marvelous. Thank you, everybody, for joining myself and Neil. And police are brave. Don't be any doubts about that. I couldn't do what they did. Neil couldn't do it. Most of you, I don't think, could do it. I think they're bloody brave. And Neil will be back on Wednesday with his usual intellectual chit chat, and I'll be back with my nonsense on Friday. Yeah, picking him up. I'll be back on Friday. Record numbers watching and listening today. Bless you for sticking with us. Love you guys.
Love you. Hug you, squeeze you. Good
I
afternoon.
That far to be quite frank, but okay, I'll leave that to you. Goodbye.